It's the conflict in the Middle East, which is escalating on multiple fronts this morning as Iran ramps up attacks on shipping traffic and energy infrastructure. U.S. officials say American and Israeli aerial attacks have crippled Iran's air defenses, but Iran continues to fire missiles and drones across the region. In Bahrain, new video shows firefighters battling huge flames at a fuel storage facility following an Iranian strike there. Iraq was forced to shut down oil port operations this morning after deadly attacks on 2 foreign oil tankers. Iran also hit a container ship off the coast of Dubai. Overnight, the global price of oil surged at one point above $100 a barrel, even after a group of more than 30 countries pledged to tap their reserves to help stabilize volatile markets. Meanwhile, President Trump continues to give mixed messaging on the war with Iran, both downplaying the conflict and bragging about the success of the U.S. military. We'll just show you what he said yesterday in Cincinnati.
And we did a little excursion. We had to take this little few weeks of excursion, but it's been incredible. Our military is unbelievable, the job they're doing. I would say, to put it mildly, way ahead of schedule. But 47 bad years we suffered with them, not only us, the rest of the world. And we're doing our job. So we had to take an excursion, but it's doing well. The market's holding up well. Prices are coming down very substantially. Oil will be coming down. That's just a matter of war. That happens you can almost predict it. I would say it went up a little bit less than we thought. It's going to come down more than anybody understands.
You just said it is a little excursion, and you said it is a war. So which one is it?
Well, it's both. It's both. It's an excursion that will keep us out of a war, and the war is going to be. For them, it's a war. For us, it's turned out to be easier than we thought.
So the excursion keeps us out of the war that it also is. Plus, how can you be ahead of schedule for a timeline in a conflict that has been unestablished? We don't know how long this was ever set to last, and the president keeps changing the timeline, making it even harder for his advisors to give clear briefings to lawmakers and other entities on what exactly should be expected here, what the exit strategy is, what the end goal is, too. All of that swirling in the pot. And then there's this. A preliminary investigation by the Pentagon has found that the United States is responsible for the deadly Tomahawk missile strike on an elementary school in Iran. The strike was launched on the first day of U.S. attacks on Iran, killing at least 170 people, according to Iranian officials. Most of the people killed were children. A U.S. official familiar with the matter tells MS Now the fatal hit was the result of dated targeting information that identified the school as part of an adjacent military complex. You've heard us talk here about how there's an IRGC headquarters that was right next to this school, and that might have explained what happened here. The findings were first detailed in the New York Times, which reported the building had been part of an Iranian Revolutionary Guard base, but was turned into a school several years ago. People briefed on the investigation told the paper that officers at U.S. Central Command created the target coordinates for the strike using outdated data provided by the Defense Intelligence Agency. Officials emphasized to the Times that the findings are preliminary. As the investigation continues, many questions remain about why the outdated information was even provided, leading to one of the deadliest military errors in decades. And President Trump, who in recent days repeatedly suggested Iran might have launched the strike by obtaining a Tomahawk missile and then using it to strike its own people, Trump was asked yesterday about this new reporting. Watch.
A new report says that the military investigation has found that the United States struck the school in Iran. As Commander-in-Chief, do you take responsibility for that?
That is what?
As Commander-in-Chief, do you...
For what?
For the strike on the school in Iran. A new report says the military investigation has found it was the United States that struck the school.
I don't know about it.
Christian Holmes doing a great job there. Joining us now, defense editor at The Economist, Shashank Joshi. Shashank, good morning. Thank you for joining us. You know, between this reporting on the school strike, which the president has been out of step with almost every single advisor, including Pete Hegseth, who is unwilling to make the same conclusions that the president is. And then you've also got the initial price tag that we're hearing about on Capitol Hill. Do you think that any of these things influence the days to come as we start to get a clearer picture of this war's first few weeks?
Yes, I think the impact of the energy shock on U.S. stocks will have a profound effect on how the president judges the timeline of this operation. Now, he says it's nearly complete, and you played a number of clips that convey the president's view. He's basically won. I can tell you that's not the Israeli view. Israeli officials believe they have plenty of targets left to strike. They would like this to go on for some time, and their aim is still to degrade the regime to the point where it could no longer stand on its own 2 feet and would be highly vulnerable to any protests or a shock. The Trump administration clearly is much, much more sensitive to the ramifications of the economic turmoil that we are seeing, and they may absolutely call a halt to this campaign well short of that point, while the regime is still standing and likely to survive. But I would just caution one thing, which is it's not just up to the U.S. when this war ends. Yes. Iran has surviving missile capabilities, surviving drone capabilities. They will also seek to extract some kind of price for the end of this conflict, including a willingness to call a halt to oil and energy strikes in the Strait of Hormuz. They will not necessarily comply with the timeline set by the United States in this operation.
And this is a thread that we've tugged on this program before, the idea that the U.S. and Israel are going at it together right now, and yet there's likely to be divergent views about how long and how much, frankly, patience they have for a sustained campaign like this. You talk about the impact that the Trump administration might feel from markets that are volatile and seeing domestic prices rising. But can you talk about how that tension between Israel and the U.S. might play out, given the fact that Netanyahu has both last summer and now in recent weeks been able to really enact an agenda against Iran that Israel has harbored for many years now through the vehicle of the Trump administration, which to this point has been willing, if at times reluctantly so?
Yes, and I don't subscribe to the view that the Trump administration has been dragged in unwillingly by Israel. I think that it has been a joint planning effort, as me and my colleagues at The Economist have reported. Planning for this operation between CENTCOM, America's Central Command, and the Israelis, the IDF, goes back to last summer after the conclusion of the June campaign. And planning in earnest with very, very substantial cooperation began in January, 2 months ago. So I don't believe this is an unwillingness that the U.S. dragged in, but I do believe that we see a divergence of tactics and of end states. And on tactics, I could say just perhaps 5 or 6 days ago, we saw an Israeli strike on an Iranian oil storage tank outside Tehran, causing, toxic chemicals over Tehran. Now, that, I should say, the Israelis believe was in retaliation for Iranian missile attacks on Haifa. So I don't believe it was, in their sense, out of the blue. There was an internal logic to that from the Israeli perspective. But the Trump administration, I think, had grave reservations. And you saw that in some of their surrogates, like Lindsey Graham, talking publicly about the need for Israel to spare some of these energy targets that would be needed to rebuild Iran. So I clearly see that kind of tactical divergence, as well as divergence on when this should end and how this should end.
Yeah, I think you're right. And that was just really the first, we'll say public showing of where the dissonance might be between the U.S. and Israel in terms of tactics in this ongoing conflict. And then, of course, again, you've got dissonance even in the word choice that the president of the United States is using to describe this, calling it both an excursion and also a war, I think leading to confusion among diplomatic allies, as well as everyone else who's watching this play out on the world stage. Or just people here in the US.
It reminds me of Russian language around a special military operation, SMO. Rather than calling their invasion of Ukraine a war, you resort to these euphemisms that may have legal rationales. You don't want to declare a war because it triggers all kinds of political, constitutional consequences. But I do fundamentally think on an operation of this magnitude, the biggest American war for many, many years, it also makes the public unable to really grasp and understand the objectives. This, I think, you just outlined before we spoke.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. The fact that this administration has not done anything to sell or even, help the American public understand what they're doing here and why is a really important piece of this that I feel has been glaring and missing. And yet the administration clearly not feeling the need to fill that hole. Defense editor at The Economist, Shashank Joshi, thank you so much for coming on with us, bringing your expertise and reporting.